All right, welcome to our last password power up information session. This is geared towards secondary teachers, but if you are an elementary teacher that may have missed a previous session, we can still support you with answering some questions that you may have. I do want to ask if you can please mute yourself so that we can, perfect, thank you so much. So we have a couple of people. I'm going to give maybe 30 seconds more to see if we can get a couple more in before we start sharing this important information with you. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and honor everyone's time as we have people dropping in. So welcome, my name is Celeste Gavina. I am an Ed Tech Coordinator, and I'm here to assist you with a lot of information that's going to hopefully make you feel a little bit more at ease with this upcoming password change that's affecting all of our students in SAISD. So I like to start first with, why do you think it's important for our students to have strong passwords? So why do y'all think it's important for students to have strong passwords? Especially at a second grade, secondary level, you may think about some of the things that are attached to their password, including grades and things like that. So that's going to be one of the most important reasons why students need to have strong passwords, even in school. It's something that will affect them the rest of their life. So we are teaching them a life skill with this lesson. So with our agenda today, we're going to go over why the students need to change their passwords, because we do realize this is not the best time to have something like this happen. So we're going to explain why. We're going to go over what your role is in all of this. We're going to share how students create ClassLink recovery questions, because that's going to be key in pushing the accountability back on our students if they forget a password. We are going to go over how students can create a strong password. Now the lesson, mini lesson / accelerator that we're sharing with you goes into this in a lot more detail. So this is just going to be the information about what your role is and how to help facilitate this happening in your classroom. We're going to show you how to reset student passwords and what happens if a student forgets their password. And then we're going to close out with why the Qualtrics survey is important in all of this process. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, or you can come off of mute, or you can raise your hand depending on your level of comfortability with Teams. But really, starting with the why, there were student passwords that were compromised. So because of that, because of the predictable pattern that our default password format has been in the past over 10 years, which was the uppercase first initial, lowercase first letter of their last name, followed by their ID number. So I have an example with Percy Jackson right there. So this is very predictable for students to figure out. So when we noticed that student passwords were compromised, we created these lessons to help students create strong passwords to protect their information. So moving on to your role as the educator in the classroom, first of all, in the chat, I'm going to drop in the accelerator or mini lesson that we have created for you. When you first open it, you may see pre-K to second and think you're in the wrong place, but you just want to scroll down until you find the grade band that is applicable to you. In these mini lessons / accelerators, they were designed to be used during mascot time. However, we do realize that sometimes things may take a little bit longer. So just understand that we have a lot of information in these. You have the slides that have already been created in English and in Spanish for you to be able to use with your students that go with the mini lesson. There's also a poster that we created to maybe print out for your classroom or have it digitally available for your chronically forgetful students. So in the chat, again, you have a copy of that so you can take a look at it. And I really think that's an important piece of this training, because we will have a section where you can ask questions. And we find that there's a lot of helpful information that comes from questions, and we do plan on putting together frequently asked questions to share with teachers. So at any time, please put in the chat so that we have record of that question and can easily share the question and the answer with other teachers that may not have attended this specific training. So what is your role in all of this? First of all, everything has been created for you. The mini lessons, like I said, include the slides and all of that good stuff. So what we really need you to do as you facilitate this is really stress the importance of strong passwords. So maybe relating it to the real world, how you use strong passwords or why strong passwords are important to you, so that students can start thinking about this as being something that isn't going to go away next year. It's something that's going to grow with them. In the same way, when I first started creating passwords, they did not have to be 12 characters long, but as time has progressed, passwords have gotten more and more complex because of how technology has evolved as well. So you're going to really need to guide students to power up their passwords. I know that there are adults that may also benefit from powering up their passwords. So I would say use it as a teachable moment with your students, but depending on the grade level that you teach, you may need to support them a little bit more. In addition to that, you're going to need to guide students to set up password recovery questions. This is going to be very helpful for you as a teacher, for that student that chronically forgets their password and comes to you asking you for their password. You will not have their password anymore. You will not have access to their password. So they will have to go in and reset their own password and create a new strong password. So really stressing to students that the password that they create, really try to hold on to that password in their brain so that they don't have to keep creating strong passwords. The other thing is you're going to really need to guide students to reset their current passwords and enter their new strong passwords. So these are things that maybe modeling would be helpful in your classroom to show students exactly where to click. You know your students best if that is something that's going to benefit them, or if just going through the slides is going to benefit them. So again, you do have choice in all of this, but again, the major point is just making sure that they're creating those strong passwords and creating password recovery questions. But we will also explain what students will do in ClassLink if they forget their new passwords. So any questions so far? All right. So in those mini lessons, we also have linked videos to help students go through the different steps in creating password recovery options and how to reset their password using the password recovery questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this short video. I did try to enable the audio to hear it, but if you do not hear the audio, just imagine a really cool techie song in the background or your favorite song. There is no audio that you're missing. Just take a look at the content, because this is content that you're going to be sharing with your students in the mini lesson. All right, so I hope that was helpful. Again, this is something that if I were in the classroom, I'd show my students one time, and then if they needed it, show it, pause it to help them. If you're a Canvas user, maybe including some of these in Canvas or having it attached to a QR code, something that will help your students do these types of things without needing your support all the time. So we did try to give you lots of resources to be able to help with that. In the chat right now, I am including a couple of different helpful documents. So first, I have a link to the video you just watched. You also have access to these videos in the mini lesson / accelerator. I also included these really great documents that Tamara created on how to create recovery questions and also how to use your password recovery questions. So both of these are super helpful as you embark on this adventure with your students, but it's also linked in the mini lesson as well. So if you need it or you forget where it is because it's in the chat, just know you can also get it in the mini lesson. Do I have any questions over what you saw or maybe something that you've read so far on the mini lesson? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue on. So this is the information that is shared on the poster. So this is how students create a strong password. So we're encouraging them to start with a 3-word phrase. So have students consider song lyrics or song titles or a group of words that will be easy to remember. It could be book titles, TV shows, things like that. Something that's going to be easy for them to remember. I would recommend having them kind of do this privately, or if they can do it in your head. For me, it literally did have involved me writing it down but I was very guarded with my password until I created it and then I ate it. Just kidding, I didn't eat it. But here's an example starting with break my soul. And then you add 1 or more symbols. So we're really recommending students use dashes because dashes are going to be easy for them to remember to use a dash instead of a space, and they get more characters that way. Then you want them to mix in a capital letter with their lowercase letters or mix in a lowercase letter with their capital letters. Again, their password is case sensitive, so it is important that they remember what they're capitalizing. And as you can tell, I put yellow in the changes per step. We also want our students to be able to take what they've learned and apply it in the real world. And we know that that includes to add 1 or more memorable numbers. So introducing students to using like the 0 in place of the O or the 6 in place of the B. So there are a lot of other options as well that are similar to that. But once they include a number in there, they're going to make their password even stronger. And the biggest part that they need to have is to make sure that it is at least 12 characters long. It can be longer, but it needs to be at least 12 characters long. If it is not 12 characters long, it will not allow students to keep that password. So keep that in mind. Again, this is a poster that is linked in the mini lesson / accelerator. So if you need to print that out and put it in your classroom or have it somewhere where students can see it, would be really helpful, especially if you know you have a class full of forgetful students, which I know we have some secondary teachers, and I'm sure you're thinking, yep, I have a class full of those types of students. So one of the things that is available in your lesson to help students see if their password is a strong password is this Test Out Your Password Strength created by cyber.org. So students can go to this website and they can type in the password that they believe is a strong password, and it'll actually let them know how long it would take hackers to figure out that password. So this is really eye-opening even for adults to put in your own password to see how strong it is. It is not attached to usernames, so you don't have to worry about someone finding out your password. You're just checking to see how strong the one that you created is. And again, this is linked in the mini lesson / accelerator for you to be able to share with your students at that part of the lesson. Any questions so far? I know it's a lot of information, so I try to give y'all time to be able to ask questions as I'm going. So I'm going to go ahead and continue onward. So if students have already created their password recovery questions, we want to now have them take the strong password that they've created and attach it to their class link. So the way to do this, you can imagine the first couple of steps, because I'm sure you're very familiar with ClassLink at this time of the year. On the top right-hand corner, you'll have their icon. When the student clicks on that icon, it'll actually give them the opportunity to click on settings. Once they click on settings, now you get this pop-up. So if students have already created their recovery questions, which if you're following the mini lesson, they have, then they would come down to here where it says change password. This is where they're going to put their old password in one time, and then they're going to put in their new password twice. So if you are doing this before April 1st, it's going to be so much easier because students won't have to, you won't have to reset the passwords for your class. It'll be students doing this on their own. So again, this will break down the steps, but also in the mini lesson, it's broken down for you. And there are a lot of screenshots as well to support you with supporting your students in this part of the activity. Do you have any questions out there on how students can reset their password before April 1st? All right. So worst case scenario, life happens and you forget to get this done before April 1st. April 1st rolls around and now you need to reset student passwords. So if they don't have recovery questions set yet, they're going to need to reset them. And the only way to do that is going to be to go through the student account manager on your teacher class link. So this is not something that's on the student.
I saw you when you walked away and I was like, oh, you know, and then you
hold on. This is going to look a little different, but for on the teacher side, you want to look for this green icon. It has SAISD Student Account Manager, or you can come up to the top and just type it in where it has the magnifying glass to find it quickly. That will give you the ability to reset their passwords. But I want to again say that you will not have access to be able to see the student passwords. Okay, so once students have gone in and changed their password and they come to you and say, I forgot my password that I created last week, you won't have that to give to them. You're going to have to remind them to use their recovery questions. So again, we want to try to get this done before April 1st. The last thing that you're going to do in your lesson is have your students complete the Qualtrics survey. This is to let us know that the students have received the lesson, they understand the importance of creating a strong password, and they will verify it by either scanning this QR code, or in the mini lesson, we also have the link provided that you can share with students in whichever way that you think is easiest to get it to your students. But this is the last step when you are going through this password power up with your students.